don't know if you've heard, but I'm a private detective now, and I saw something that you might find interesting.
Where are you going?
See a movie.
Do you know when you'll be back?
Just eat your pizza.
I'd like to buy a gun.
I don't care how you do it. It's just got to be done tomorrow.
Okay, good to see you. First of all, congratulations on the movie. It's fantastic. It's right up my street. It's exactly the kind of thing I wanted to see. So congratulations on it. The first thing I wanted to ask was for Shane. The character of Ray, who John plays in this film, without giving anything away, he's kind of fed up and he wants to kind of not be a pushover anymore. He wants to stand up and do something with his life. Curiously, it's your directorial debut for a feature film, though. Did you kind of draw things on how you kind of wanted to move from short films to a feature film kind of in this film? Is it kind of semi-autobiographical in a way, would you say?
It's a frustrating thing trying to have a film career and try to get something made. So I'm sure subconsciously I was working out some frustration in there somewhere. But I think more than that, I think, the bumbling, incompetent nature of the characters in this movie is probably the thing that's autobiographical. Like, I like crime stories, but the Aaron Sorkin, extremely confident, extremely talented, extremely intelligent style of character is not something I like to watch, but not something I identify with. I think if I was a criminal in this town, I think I would be Ray. I think it would have a pretty bad, terrible outcome. So I think that part is probably the most autobiographical.
But was this was the project that you wanted to go with as your directorial debut? It was always that way, and was it a long time in the works?
I had another script that I had written and was trying to make for years, and we would get a little money and then lose it. It would start to happen and then it would fall apart. So I spent a lot of time thinking that was going to be my first feature, and eventually just got frustrated with it and just put it away and just sat down and locked myself in a room for a while and just wrote this. I really had spent a lot of time, trying to find something that would interest people, that would get people's attention. And with this one, I just sat down and just tried to make myself happy, tried to make myself laugh, tried to sit down and write the thing that I wanted to watch. So, so I sent that to the producers, and thankfully they were interested. And, COVID and everything else slowed us down. So it took us a while to get together, to put it all together. But yeah, once I kind of wrote the script, it came out pretty quickly and I was happy with it and we were rolling.
Uh-huh. I mean, the film pulled me in straight from the very beginning, when you've got this kind of cautionary tale of the dangers of hitchhiking. No, I don't want to give anything away, but it's just this beautiful play on the words, and these campfire stories that we've heard about hitchhikers. Now you kind of twist it on its head, and it really, really works, pulls me in, and it really kind of gave me the idea of what was coming next, kind of humor and the kind of how devious you were going to be with us. I mean, kind of what all these twists and turns were coming later on. Was that initially kind of the genesis for the film? Was that that could have almost been a short film in itself. Was that kind of the original idea, and it kind of spun off from there, or was that just you wanted to put that in the beginning so that the audience kind of knew what kind of ride they were in for?
So the genesis for the story was John's character, and then I think shortly after Steve's character. Like, I like with my stories, I like having a central argument that I feel like can sustain the movie. And so once I had those two characters, their, argument about sort of will they, won't they be friends, and I heard their voices in my head, that's kind of when I felt like there was something there. I didn't quite know where the story went, but once I had the relationship with those two characters, I built everything around that. So that first scene came later, and Dylan Baker's so terrific in that first scene.
Fantastic, yeah.
It's a nice way it's always nice watching that scene with audiences. They seem to really react to it and to his performance in it. And I actually did at one point, I thought about shooting that as a short film, trying to get the movie made and slowly trying to piece it together. I was anxious to get started, so I thought about doing it as a short, but in the end it didn't work out. But for me, I just really try as much as possible to get the audience's attention as quickly as I can, try to really start with something that gets them leaning forward. And so I came up with that and hoped that it, kind of communicated the humor and the tension and the strangeness of the world before John and Steve start into their story.
No, it is really pulled me in. It's fantastic. Yeah. So obviously, I want to come to John now. We see your character in. I mean, I just like literally a week earlier, I'd seen you in Past Lives, where you are so open, and you're also you want your partner to go and speak and be with this other person that she's not seen for a long time, and you encourage her to do so. But in this role, it's exactly the opposite. You're blind. You don't even want to see.
Well,
your wife.
I mean, I don't know if Arthur would want his wife to be fucking Hae-sung, but
No, of course not.
but I think he's secure about the relationship. So I think if that was happening, Arthur would, have some
No,
problems.
sure. No, but I just,
But yeah, they're very different.
It's kind of like, how did you approach these two different roles? Because it's very, very different kind of view towards an open relationship and kind of sharing everything in common. How did you kind of approach these two very different?
Every role I approach, it starts with the script. So,
right.
These are written as very different characters. Arthur is very, typical New York intellectual liberal male. And this is it's very close to probably who I am. Ray is from an entirely different world. He is in an entirely different situation and profession, and grew up with entirely different, sets of social mores, and just what is right and what is wrong. So it's clearly different, and not to sound like glib about it, but like part of the actor's job is to be able, I think, to transform. Some actors don't do that.
Sure.
I find it fun to be able to. Every character I think I play, there is a piece of me in, but I think it's fun to open up that piece and dig deeper into it. The insecurities of Ray, which are different than the insecurities of Arthur, and the feeling of being a pushover and the feeling of being taken advantage of. I think these are all human qualities. Even the most confident of us feel these feelings at times. So after loving the script and after wanting to be a part of it, you start to dig into that portion of yourself and discovering what my version of Ray is. And yeah, you just do your job, I guess, as an actor.
Uh-huh. Shane, how open were you to like John said, he kind of dug into how he would kind of react in that kind of situation. How much did you let him propose to you that maybe he could add to the performance after reading the script and getting ready to shoot?
We were just a small little indie film, and in those situations you don't really have a lot of time to rehearse, and you don't really have a lot of time to do a lot of takes also. So it was really important to me to find actors like John who could come in and just really, be ready to go. And he did. He came in and he was really great. I think, for the most part, honestly, I just stayed out of his way. I think once I understood that he really got the character and he got the tone, I just kind of stayed back. He's really great. He's really, he's a great actor in the editing room. Because he gives you what you want, but he does very slight variations on it, and there's so many like terrific moments to choose from. So yeah, occasionally we might have a conversation about something a little more this way, a little more that way, but for the most part, he and the other actors too, were all really great. They all really understood the project, and I just kind of stayed out of their way the best I could.
Mm-hmm. You said that you didn't really have much time to for many takes. But I mean, maybe I'm completely wrong, but I couldn't help get the feeling that, especially when Steve Zahn is in the frame, there must have been a lot of outbursts that you just could not help yourself, especially one particular toilet scene, for example.
That was probably the most miserable day and the most stressful to shoot. I don't think anyone was having fun that day.
It's complicated to drown someone in a toilet on a very tight budget.
Yeah, it was a bit of a whirlwind, but thankfully when the cameras were rolling, the actors were on and they were always great. So yeah, that we stuck fairly close to the script, I think, but definitely either John or Steve or a lot of the other actors, there was moments that they brought to it, they improvised. So there's a lot of little moments that we found that made the way into the film.
No.
Yeah.
Well, was Steve, sorry, you're gonna say something, John?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was as improvisy as people might feel it is, even though it's a comedy. I think we just had a really strong script that we didn't feel the jokes were already really good, that we didn't really feel the need to have that anything we were adding was probably not as good. So there was very little bit of that, but yeah, even Steve, I think there was just little moments of that, but not a ton.
Uh-huh. But I want to congratulate you then on the comedy that you wrote in the script, because especially Steve Zahn's How Do You Do the Cosplay Private Detective is very, I mean, it's a very tricky kind of comedy to kind of keep the right balance, because if it goes one way it feels too slapstick, and if it goes the other way it doesn't feel like it fits in. It just works so really, really well in this film. Can you kind of, what was your formula to make sure that it didn't go one way or the other?
Um, I tried to, write a script that was as specific as I could make it. I had an idea in mind and a tone in mind. And then once I had the script, my most important job was just trying to find actors who could pull that off. It's very interesting. It's always surprising to me how there seems to be this assumption, even, with accomplished professionals, that good actors can be funny. That's like just a tool that a good actor has in his back pocket. Which in my opinion is not true. Like it's a very hard thing to do, to be funny, and someone who can do, really serious, really dramatic, really, emotional stuff while still keeping the comedy bubbling underneath. That's really hard. It's one thing to write it, but to get up in front of the camera to pull that off, like that's really tough. So finding actors who could do that, was just something that I obsessed about and kept me up at night. And you've seen the film, so that thankfully we were able to find people who just nailed it and were really terrific.
Absolutely nailed it. The comedy works fantastically. Something else that works really well is the twist. I mean, obviously, films with so many twists, oftentimes I kind of get fed up halfway through, because they just throw so many twists in there, and it just kind of feels like they're just thrown in there for the sake of throwing them in there. There's so many in here, but they all just work perfectly. How did you kind of structure it so that even though all these kind of these weird plot twists because of all the buffoonery that's going on in this town, how did you manage to get it all to kind of come to a head right at the end, taking it out there without it feeling kind of like throwaway, like a lot of these type of films do?
I think I have, like, as a viewer, I think I have a very short attention span, like, and I like to really give the audience something a new reason to keep watching, just constantly giving the audience a new reason to keep watching, whether it's a turn or just, just something of interest that will keep them going every few minutes. So I think it's probably just my own stress about boring an audience, or worried that I'm going to lose people, just to try to keep it interesting. I've got this, I'm noticing in my screen, I've got this collection of PG Wodehouse books behind me. I'm a big PG Wodehouse fan, and somebody pointed out that it felt like a very PG Wodehouse, which I didn't realize at the time, but I think is very true. I'm sure I stole from him. He has these great farcical stories of people coming and going, and mistaken identities and missing objects and stuff. So I think I just liked that kind of story and was doing my best version of it.
At the same time, James, because of all these twists and turns, did he let you in? I mean, I imagine you knew every single twist and turn that was coming. Was there anything that Shane did to kind of trip you up a little bit, just to kind of keep the audience on their toes by keeping you on your toes at the same time?
Who, the actors?
Yeah. Did Shane do anything specifically to kind of keep them on the toes, to keep the twists and turns kind of a surprise for the audience?
No, I don't think there was anything like specifically. We were just again like it was going back to the script. We were doing that, and it was also like the scene in the parking lot when we discover that the car had been towed. That was a very when you do these indie film like a film like this, the location may not match perfectly with the script. So there was, discussions about, how to make the bits work more naturally. So if anything was like keeping us on our toes, I think was more if we had to pivot in a situation because a location wasn't exactly, accommodating to the script. But it was a team, it was a team effort. Shane wasn't like up to any trickery or like nefarious, plots to keep us, in the dark in any way. I don't think.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, listen, just to finish off then, Shane, it's a great movie. I imagine you've got the bug for another feature film. Is that the next thing that you'd like to do, or are you going to go back and do another short or something like that before you come back into a feature film?
I hope I never have to make another short film as long as I live.
Well,
I've made enough short films for one lifetime. Hope I'll get to do another.
Well, listen, congratulations again. It's a fantastic film. I'm sure everyone's going to love it when it comes out. I wish you all the best of luck, and I hope to speak to you again sometime soon, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
It's important to finish things once we start them.
Get off me! This guy knows something. I can see it in his eyes.
You can't just go around drowning people.
Well, that was one guy.